Have you ever considered that you would never come back from an appointment with your nail artist on your way to it? I doubt it. But Penelope Fry, a regular client of our beauty salon, is a great example. The nail art I did for her that evening was the last one in her life. She died right in the chair, and I didn't even notice when it happened. I remember trying to wake her up after the procedure. I slapped her cheeks, I sprayed water over her, and then I pressed my fingers to her neck, trying to feel the pulse, and realized there was none. Mrs. Fry had a late appointment. To serve her, I had to stay overtime. So when the horror of what had just happened swept over me, there was nobody around. There were few employees on the shift that day. A couple of our colleagues got ill, so there were only 3 of us: Monsieur Leo, hairdresser Phoebe, and me. Leo was the only man on our staff, and all the ladies liked him. Initially, Penelope Fry was his client. She was over 60, but she looked great. Like Hollywood celebrities, she didn't hide gray strands in her hair. She didn't worry about the wrinkles when she laughed. She used coral lipstick and had snow-white teeth. And she was the wife of the owner of the dental clinic in the city, and the only daughter of a banker who had bequeathed all his assets to her. Later, Penelope became Phoebe's client and changed her style drastically. A youthful style of hair dyed in a bright color. Mrs. Fry loved her new style. To show her gratitude, she presented Phoebe with several procedures at her husband's clinic. Eventually, Penelope began using my services as a nail artist. She had one quirk, though. The slightest touch of the file on her nails caused her extreme discomfort. This is why she took a sleeping aid before every procedure and slept while I worked. One day, I finally asked her why she did all this for her nails. She smiled and corrected me. It wasn't for her nails, but for the man. On that terrible night, everything went awry. Before Mrs. Fry's visit, I had a quarrel with the salon manager. It was yet another day when I had to work overtime, and I was tired of it. So, when Penelope came, I was barely concealing my irritation, but nevertheless, I sat down to work. Traditionally, I took the sleeping aid from my client and poured water into a glass. But breaking the tip of the ampule, I pressed it a little harder and felt a sudden pain in my finger. Drops of blood appeared on it. Fortunately, I only crushed the tip. The rest of the ampule was undamaged, so I poured the liquid from it into the glass. Leo saw what had happened and suggested taking the glass to Mrs. Fry, while I was applying a Band-Aid to my finger. When I returned, Penelope was reclining in the chair, asleep. The empty glass was on the table. I took a deep breath and tried to differentiate the cosmetic scents in the salon. Shampoo, fragrance oils, hairspray. It soothed me. Then I turned on the sounds of wild nature and got down to work. When I finished 2 hours later, I looked up from my client's hands. But I couldn't wake her up. You can't think of a sillier situation. I dialed Leo immediately. Traditionally, whenever something happened in our salon, everyone called him. Leo promised to inform the manager and call an ambulance and the police, and he told me not to touch anything. Well, I wasn't going to do it anyway. But suddenly I heard a ringtone, and it wasn't coming from my phone, but from Penelope's purse. I hesitated, but curiosity prevailed, so I took her phone. A man in a white gown was looking at me from the screen. Below the photo, there was just one word: Michael. Mesmerized, I pressed the accept button and carefully, as if it was a hot iron, put the phone to my ear. The dry voice said that the divorce papers were signed. Then the call ended. I returned the phone to the purse and noticed a key with a red heart-shaped plastic trinket inside it. There was a barely visible number, 11, on it. I heard a knock on the door. When I opened it, I saw medics and police officers. When I saw Leo behind them, I sighed with relief. The medics attested death and left. Then I realized I would be the suspect in the murder, even though it was unintentional. Because it was me, not a medical professional, who had added the medical drug to the water my client had drunk. The police interrogated me and Leo for a long time. They found the empty ampule in the trash bin. It was weird, as Phoebe was supposed to take it out after the shift, but she didn't do it. Finally, at 1 a.m, we were permitted to go. I was starving. This was my body's reaction to stress. Leo and I went to a bar and ordered burgers and 2 shots of tequila, then 2 more, and then more. Only after that did I feel better. and eventually I found myself in Leo's bed. To be honest, I'd liked him for a long time. My final thought before falling asleep was that not everything was that terrible on that awful day. The next morning, I woke up first and, looking for toothpaste, found an ampule of the same sleeping aid Penelope had used. It was odd. Leo had fetched her the glass, and so he could have added an extra dose to the water. But why would he do that? Next to the ampule, I found a key with number 11 on a red heart-shaped trinket, the same as the one in Penelope's purse. I was curious as to what the key was used for. I slipped the key and the ampule in my pocket and was ready to leave when Leo appeared in the doorway. He said he knew what it looked like and told me to wait and listen to him. I wish I'd left. Not looking up, the man I'd just slept with confessed that he and Mrs. Fry had had an affair in the recent year. So, was he the man for whom Penelope stepped over herself to have her nail art done? She'd offered Leo to be her lover, and in return, she'd promised to support him with money. He'd agreed. At first, they'd met at his apartment. During one of such visits, Penelope had left her sleeping aid here. Then she'd rented a room at the motel on the outskirts. People like her don't go to such places, so she wasn't afraid somebody she knew could see her there. The key with the heart-shaped trinket was to that room. But recently, Mrs. Fry had asked her husband for a divorce. And when she told Leo, he got scared. What if his mistress wanted something more than secret meetings at the motel? What if she made their relationship public? Leo cherished his reputation. He told Penelope he wanted to break up. But could he really kill her to keep the secret? To clear my doubts, he said he would help me in everything I did. And my idea was to check the motel. I had nowhere to hurry, as the salon was closed while the investigation was underway. We took a cab, and in half an hour, we were there. At the long, shabby, one-story building. Every room had a separate entrance from the courtyard. We passed by the window of the receptionist, who was dozing surrounded by beer bottles, and found room 11. But its door was open. There was chaos inside the room. The sheets were on the floor. All the things were scattered around the room. Even the picture was taken down from the wall. We heard rumble. There was somebody inside. Leo took the heavy vase from the nightstand and went to the bathroom. Somebody jumped out of the window. Leo rushed after them, and I stayed alone. Who was it? What were they looking for? It all looked that we prevented the burglar from finishing what they were doing. So the thing was still in here. I checked all the closets, the hall, and the bathroom. I checked all the things on the floor but found nothing. But then the mirror caught my attention. Its top and bottom had metal frames firmly secured to the wall, but it could slide sideways. I took it out of the braces and an envelope fell to the floor. It had photos inside. In one of them, Mr. Fry embraced a young brunette. In the other, they exchanged a kiss. And in the last picture, the brunette looked into the camera. And it was Phoebe. Apart from the photos, the envelope contained the Fry's marriage contract. Suddenly, someone's hand snatched the paper out of my hands. I turned around, and a substance with a familiar scent sprayed into my face. It was a hairspray. This was the type Phoebe usually used. My eyes burned. I stumbled into the bathroom to wash them. Leo returned, breathless. He'd searched the area around the motel but found no one. I gave him a reproaching stare of my inflamed eyes and told him of how I'd found and lost the envelope with the photos and the contract. Our boss called us at that time and told us to come to work right away. There, the police were waiting for us. The detective stepped back from the laptop screen, inviting me to come up. On the screen, I saw our salon. Penelope and I were standing by the far wall. I was unaware we had a CCTV system. The detective played the video. In it, I accepted the ampule from Penelope and turned my back to the camera. It didn't show what exactly I did and how many ampules I poured in the glass. Then Leo came up. He took the glass from me and followed Penelope to the chair. Obviously, he couldn't be guilty as all this time he faced the camera. Unlike me. I felt several pairs of eyes watching my reaction. They suspected me but lacked proofs. So they were waiting for me to give myself away. But I hadn't killed Penelope. Therefore, watching the video, I focused on the trash bin instead of myself. The police hadn't noticed I never bent down to dispose of the ampule, but I automatically put it in my pocket. So, how had it ended up in the bin? I brought my uniform from the locker and took the 2 pieces of the ampule Penelope had given me. There was my blood on the smaller piece, and it also had a red line on its neck. The ampules Penelope had used previously didn't have it. That day I'd been nervous and hadn't paid attention to it. Now I compared the pieces with the ampule I'd found at Leo's. Both had stickers with the name of the drug, but the one I'd used had the red line. Somebody had replaced one drug with another. I insisted on watching the video further. Phoebe came up to the bin and dropped something in it. Was it the same ampule the police had found? The hairdresser was also summoned to the salon. When Phoebe saw me, she got scared and tried to flee, but she failed. Her backpack contained the same hairspray she'd sprayed into my eyes. The police found a pack of sleeping aid in Phoebe's car. It lacked one ampule. The other ampules also had the red line, just like the one from my pocket. The envelope with the photos and the Fry's marriage contract was also there. According to the contract, if one of the partners cheated, their assets would go to the other. Phoebe confessed she'd done it for her lover, Penelope's husband. She'd overheard their conversation about the divorce. Penelope had threatened Michael to publish the photos and deprive him of everything if he'd refused to sign the papers. In case he'd done it, she'd left him his clinic. Phoebe said she'd stolen the drugs from her lover. Then she'd replaced the sticker and the ampule during one of Penelope's regular visits to the salon. But the police didn't believe she'd planned the crime alone. The examination revealed Penelope had died from the overdose of the sleeping aid. That meant that Phoebe's ampules contained the same drug, but it was more concentrated. As such, it was supposed to look like Penelope had taken the double dose herself. The investigators tricked Penelope's husband into believing that Phoebe had tipped him off, and Michael confessed that he was the one who came up with the scheme, and he made his mistress his accomplice. In order to silence her, he had sent a substantial sum to her account. He wasn't interested in the clinic alone, but all of his millionaire wife's wealth. Living with her, he'd gotten used to a classy lifestyle. After the investigation, I resigned from the salon. I didn't want to pay the cost for my job, and I didn't want to see others do it for beauty, men, or money. Does sacrifice really make you happy? I doubt it. Penelope Fry is the example. I haven't seen Leo after that, and I don't want him to remind me of that terrible story.